In July 2026, for the first time since the military seized power, Myanmar's top diplomats sat down face-to-face with the foreign ministers of Southeast Asia. And on the fate of the region's most famous prisoner, he offered 4 words of reassurance: she will be looked after. To understand why the whole region wants proof of that promise, you have to understand the woman it was made about, and the 80-year struggle she has come to represent. This is the story of Aung San Suu Kyi. Let's start with the news that brought us here. According to Channel News Asia and the South China Morning Post, the diplomats of the 11-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations met in person with their Myanmar counterpart in July 2026, the first such meeting since the 2021 coup. Asked about Aung San Suu Kyi, Myanmar's foreign minister called her, quote, "a relative, she's a sister, and therefore we will take care of her." He said the 81-year-old was in good health. Warm words. For a woman the same government has kept locked away for more than 5 years in a place it will not disclose. To weigh that promise, we have to go back to the beginning. Aung San Suu Kyi was born in Rangoon in June 1945, the daughter of General Aung San, the hero who negotiated Burma's independence from Britain, and who was assassinated in 1947, months before that freedom took effect. She barely knew him. She studied philosophy, politics, and economics at Oxford, married a British scholar, Michael Arris, and raised 2 sons in England, living for decades. A quiet academic life, far from Burmese politics. Then, in 1988, she returned home to care for her dying mother and walked straight into a revolution. That August, students led a nationwide uprising against decades of military rule, remembered by its date, 8/8/88. The army's crackdown was ferocious. Estimates of the dead range from a few hundred, by the government's own count, to 3,000 or more, according to its opponents. Into that moment stepped the daughter of the independence hero. Before an estimated 500,000 people at the Shwedagon Pagoda, Aung San Suu Kyi called for democracy, and a movement found its voice. Weeks later, she helped found the National League for Democracy and became the face of Burma's hope for something better. In 1990, Burma held its first multi-party election in 3 decades. Suu Kyi's party won in a landslide, taking around 80% of the contested seats. But there was a catch. She wasn't there to see it. She had already been placed under house arrest the year before and could not campaign. And the generals, faced with a result they did not like, simply refused to honor it. They never convened the parliament, never handed over power, and years later, annulled the result altogether. It was a preview of a pattern that would repeat for the next 30 years. Between 1989 and 2010, Aung San Suu Kyi spent roughly 15 of 21 years in detention, mostly confined to her home in Rangoon. In 1991, while she was locked away, the Norwegian Nobel Committee awarded her the Nobel Peace Prize. Unable to travel, she sent her teenage sons to accept it in Oslo on her behalf. The years cost her dearly. When her husband, Michael Arris, was dying of cancer in England, the junta refused him a visa to say goodbye, and she chose not to leave, fearing she would never be allowed back. He died in 1999. They had not seen each other in years. Her sacrifice made her, to much of the world, a living symbol of peaceful resistance. She was finally released in November 2010. Within 2 years, she won a seat in parliament. By 2015, her party swept a landslide in Myanmar's freest election in a generation. But the military had written the rules to keep her from the very top. The constitution barred anyone with foreign children from the presidency, a clause aimed squarely at her British sons. So her party invented a new title for her, state councillor, making her the country's de facto leader in all but name. After a lifetime of struggle, Aung San Suu Kyi was, at last, in power. And it is here that her story grows more complicated. In 2017, after militant attacks on police posts in Rakhine State, Myanmar's military launched sweeping operations against the Rohingya, a Muslim minority long denied citizenship. According to the UN Refugee Agency, more than 700,000 Rohingya fled into Bangladesh. A UN fact-finding mission concluded the military's top generals should be investigated for genocide. The world looked to Aung San Suu Kyi to condemn the army. And she did not. Stripped of honors abroad, she went further. In 2019, she personally traveled to the International Court of Justice in The Hague to defend Myanmar, telling the judges the case presented, quote, an incomplete and misleading factual picture, and that genocidal intent could not be the only explanation. To her critics, the icon had fallen. To her supporters, she was a pragmatist, trapped between an army she couldn't control and a nation she was trying to hold together. Both can be true. In November 2020, her party won an even bigger majority. The military cried fraud. Election officials and observers found no evidence to support the claim. And so, on the 1st of February 2021, the day before the new parliament was to sit, the army seized power, detaining Suu Kyi and President Win Myint, and declaring a state of emergency. In junta courts, she was convicted on 19 counts, from incitement to corruption, charges her supporters call a political fiction, and sentenced to a total of 33 years, later trimmed by a series of amnesties. At 75, she was a prisoner once more. This time, Myanmar did not stay quiet. A mass civil disobedience movement filled the streets, and the security forces answered with live fire. According to the monitoring group OP, which stresses its count is an undercount, more than 8,000 civilians have been killed since the coup. Broader estimates put total conflict deaths above 100,000. Peaceful protest gave way to armed resistance, as newly formed People's Defense Forces joined long-established ethnic armies in a nationwide civil war. The United Nations estimates that around 3.5 million people have been driven from their homes. The country Aung San Suu Kyi once led is today at war with itself. So what has Southeast Asia done about it? In April 2021, ASEAN agreed a 5-point consensus with the very general who led the coup: stop the violence, begin dialogue, allow humanitarian aid, and grant an envoy access to all sides. The junta agreed and then ignored nearly every point. By its first anniversary, rights groups and ASEAN-owned members were calling the plan a failure. In a rare rebuke, the bloc barred Myanmar's coup leader from its top summits, but barring a general from a meeting has not freed a single prisoner nor stopped the war. And that is the corner ASEAN is backed into: engage and risk legitimizing the coup, isolate and lose all leverage. Which brings us back to that July meeting. When Myanmar's minister calls Suu Kyi a sister who will be cared for, ASEAN is being asked to take it on faith, because the bloc has requested, again and again, that its envoy be allowed to simply see her, and the military has said no such meeting will be permitted until her sentences are fully served. And there is reason to want proof. The junta says she is in very good health, while her son, Kim Aris, has said she suffers from heart disease and osteoporosis. Her exact whereabouts remain unknown. A promise to look after someone means very little if no independent person is ever allowed to check. Until an envoy, a doctor, or a family member can sit with Aung San Suu Kyi and confirm she is well, the world is left with a reassurance it cannot test, about a woman whose entire life has been a struggle over who gets to decide the truth in Myanmar. This report was compiled from more than 20 sources, including Channel News Asia, the South China Morning Post, CNN, NPR, Al Jazeera, the United Nations, the UN Refugee Agency, the International Court of Justice, Human Rights Watch, and the ASEAN Secretariat. The full list with links is in the description, so you can read the original reporting and judge it for yourself. Thank you for watching.